What's up, my good peoples? Welcome to the Be Transformed podcast, where we're talking about ideas that stimulate wholesome thinking into identity, purpose, vision, and action. I am James Anderson. With me is Logan Eaton and Carolyn Anderson. My
Hello.
good peoples, what's happening?
Hello, hello.
Hello a
That's all
couple
I got.
times.
What's happening with you?
No, I asked you. What's happening with you?
I answered with a question.
My
Nothing's-
bad.
Nothing is happening with me. So I went immediately to the follow-up question,
Yeah.
which is what is happening with you?
It's all happening, baby. It is all happening. Nice. Sweet. Well, today, morning, whatever you're listening to this, we're talking about the tempering process. So, the tempering process, kind of the definition for the tempering process, is seeking out weakness to ensure strength. So, Miles Monroe talks about this process in his book, potentially called The Fatherhood Principle or The Principle of Fatherhood. One of those.
You get there either way.
Yeah, you get there. And anyways, he's talking about how the Romans and the Greeks would use this process of tempering to make swords for battle. So they would heat up the steel until it got red hot. And when it gets glowing red, you can actually see inside the metal. And what you're looking for in the tempering process is little black spots, or black spots in general. And the black spots are where the molecules in the metal are like spread apart. And where they're spread apart, the integrity of the metal is weaker. So when you find these black spots, you put the sword on the anvil and you beat the black spots until they disappear, because essentially all that force is causing those molecules to come closer together, and so essentially strengthening that weak spot. So you do that for a little bit, and then you douse it in the cold water. Cold water makes the steel hard, but then they would do the process again, and you would be looking for these black spots. And so you do this process over and over until there's no more black spots. And at this point, then the sword has been tempered and it's battle ready. Right? And just this process of tempering was like vitally important. Like, you would never use a sword in battle if it wasn't first tempered, because you have no idea if it can withstand the fight. I mean, you don't want to go into a battle and not know if your weapon's going to last or not. And yeah, it's just kind of interesting thinking about this tempering process and kind of relating it to life, and how trials are kind of like the tempering process, where trials kind of heat up your faith and your belief and your confidence, right? They heat it up. And it's like in times of trials, it's like, what do you do? Like it can kind of show some weaknesses, right? Where maybe you get into fear, you get into doubt, you get into identity crisis. I mean, do you cast off all of your confidence because something happened that you weren't planning on, or, the day didn't go right, or somebody cut you off, somebody ran into you, somebody got sick? It's like all of a sudden, do you freak out, or do you stay stable? Do you stay strong? Do you stay confident and sure of where you're going, who you are, what you're capable of, who God is? Right? It's like the trials kind of bring in the test of faith. But it's like in First Peter, he's talking about your faith. Through these trials, your faith is proved genuine, right? That it's actually real, right? It's like that proverb in the proverb in Proverbs that says, if your strength fails in hard times, then how strong was it, right? How strong was your strength if it failed you when you needed it most, right? That the whole point of strength is not only just to have it in good times, but to be able to bear up under heavy load. Yeah, what do you guys think about that?
Just remember that one verse that we talked about that one night about if you
Give a mouse a cookie?
no no, like if you can't run with men, how can you run with the horses? If you can't find your way on the open path, how can you find your way through the thicket? Something like that.
Yeah, if you stumble in the safe country, how could you manage in the thickets of the Jordan?
Yeah.
Yeah. If men tire you out, how could you run with horses?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I like the analogy. Extremely accurate. It's easy to forget like the finished product though. The finished product is this beautiful sword or whatever the metal worker's making.
Yeah.
But it's easy to just think that you're getting I don't know, it's easy just to forget what the finished product's going to look like and kind of complain and groan and tap out even sometimes, but if we can understand like what the process looks like and why things happen and what the result can be and the fact that you can kind of control how you respond to those things that are making you into the person you need to be, then I think we can. It's just important to keep your eye on like the finished product. I think the finished product, because it's easy in that process to just lay down and not become who you need to be.
Yeah.
I think what first came to mind for me was you could get hung up on just seeing the trial, just seeing the black spot. And like, oh shoot, there's a black spot. What now? Instead of like, oh no, this is just part of the process. And not all trials you have to figure out the purpose, but the trial's a trial, and so it's just a matter of like not getting stuck on what the trial is and just see it as a chance to show your strength and to actually still get to where you're going, instead of just getting hung up on there's a trial. All I can see is a trial, and I'm not going to get past it. Or I'm not going to, this black spot is just going to be there instead of looking beyond it.
You have to trust the forger too, I think, because, sometimes we don't even see the weak spots in ourselves, but you have to trust the forger that he can see them and pick them out and knows what to do to kind of turn them into strengths. So, trusting the forger to turn the weak spots into strengths.
Sure. Because
we all don't want to admit that we've got weak spots. We all want to think that we can handle anything or are strong in all suits of life, but you gotta trust the forger to bring about, when you start moving, to bring about the weak spots and start turning them into strengths.
I mean, you guys are dead on. Just that concept of like, one, if you if you don't understand what's happening, like in a trial or whatever, I think trials are just a byproduct of life, right? I mean, a lot of people are like, what's God trying to show me in this moment? And it's like, I mean, that's great, but it's like, it's life and stuff happens, right? So it's the concept that like you have the ability to dominate the trials or the struggles or the work, the effort that it takes to get to where you want to go. You have the ability to dominate it. You have the ability to charge uphill, with epic endurance, with an epic attitude, with tenacity that pulls other people with you, right? You have the ability to get after it. And but I think sometimes you could misunderstand the tempering process, and you could just look at life like, how come all these things are happening to me, or how come everything's hard, how come nothing's working, but it's like these are the times where your faith literally gets tested, because it's like, all right, faith is confidence, it's belief in the unseen, right? So your vision that you have of God, the picture of the future that you see, all right, faith is belief that that picture is going to come true. So when you find yourself in a situation that doesn't look anything like what you saw, like getting chucked in a cistern or being chased by the king, the current king, of which, you already were anointed, right? And you're running away from this king who's trying to kill you. When the situation doesn't look anything like what you saw, right? Your faith is tested, and like, are you going to keep believing? Are you going to hold on? Are you going to keep trudging along, finding what there is to do while you're still just working it out and kind of, in some ways, waiting, but all the while still kind of growing in strength and in knowledge and in ability, so that when the time does come, you come out swinging. Yeah, so not being afraid of the process. But again, just that perspective of like, stuff isn't happening. Like the tempering process isn't like the kind of the weaknesses rising up. This isn't about discouragement or about like breaking us down. Like the whole point is that so that you won't shatter, right? In the midst of something that actually matters. Like in the middle of a fight, in the middle of the battle, in the middle of actually like living out your purpose. The whole point is so that you don't shatter, because a sword with the weak spot hit just right or just enough hits and the thing will bust into pieces, right? So this is the whole thing, that when your weaknesses rise up and we start getting rid of them, we don't just like hang out and marinate in them. You just uproot them, right? Like the pruning process where you start to see things from a different perspective, where you start to see the truth and are able to actually walk in it. Even like last week we were talking about the shift of perspective, right? When you can choose your approach, when you can choose your attitude, when you can choose the thoughts you cultivate and marinate and the thoughts you don't, like your ability to grow in these things, right? Like this is the tempering process. These are the things that create maturity and completeness, right? I mean, in James chapter 1, right, he's talking about consider it pure joy whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith develops perseverance. And when perseverance has taken its full course, it'll leave you mature, complete, and lacking no good thing, right? A fully tempered sword is complete. It's not lacking anything. It's not going to shatter in the middle of a battle. It's useful for winning, for dominating, for conquering, for defending, right? Like the whole point is to become battle ready. Perseverance is the thing that creates that character, that maturity, your ability to hold on. Also, while the idea of like, I could really let go right now, but it's like your ability to hold on in spite of that, your ability to, keep moving forward when you could really turn around. It's like your ability to keep showing up even while there's a temptation to not. I mean, these things are what make us strong. These are the things that make us ready to actually be used for the purposes of God. Because otherwise, man, you get these people who freaking crumble. They do these great things, the miracles, and they do all this stuff, and then they just freaking crumble. Like, their adultery or whatever. Yeah. Adultery. That's what I was looking for. Substance abuse. I mean, whatever. I mean, just a bunch of dumb crap. And then people are like, oh, man, you don't want to be in the limelight because it's so scary and you get so attacked. No, it's when you haven't been tempered and you're out in front of people using your gifts and your callings, which are irrevocable, but your character has not been tempered through the process. You have the ability to crack. It's not because the people of the kingdom of heaven don't have the ability to do everything that God said. It's because the people who are not tempered under the real pressure and battle freaking shatter. But that's not, those people are not the standard. And becoming tempered, right? Seeking out weakness to ensure strength guarantees your success. What do you guys think?
Yeah, like it creates confidence. Like the tempering process creates confidence in the use of the whatever it is, that whatever's being tempered is being used for. Creates a confidence in the user, the end user. Yeah. I like what you said about people being afraid of the limelight, people being afraid of, I don't know, would you say like that's success? Like people afraid of success, people afraid of accomplishing something, or maybe being used up for something great purpose or anything like that. Yeah, I think it's I don't know, it just goes back to accountability and responsibility, like becoming that finished product or whatever, that sword that somebody's going to have to trust, that's going to work right, takes accountability and responsibility. And I think a lot of people shy away from that because it would be easier just to become an ornament that gets put on the shelf.
Yeah.
And you just sit there.
Useless. Yeah.
And that doesn't take any accountability or responsibility. It'd just be easier to do that. So yeah, I think, what did I say? What was the first thing I said? Oh, it puts confidence. It puts confidence in the user. Like the tempering process puts confidence in the user, because when somebody says, "Yeah, this has been tempered," right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Not like tampered with, like.
Not tampered.
Okay, tempered.
Not to be confused with tamping or tamperine
Okay.
or tambourine.
When somebody creates a tambourine.
Yes. You beat it 5 times.
But the tempering, when somebody says, "Yeah, this is tempered," then the person using it, whatever it is, knows like, okay, I can use this. When somebody says, "Yeah, we put it in the heat and put it in some water, but I don't know."
Yeah.
Hopefully it works.
Right.
You know? It's like, oh, okay, I'm not buying this, or I'm not whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, that whole process ensures confidence in the user, what it's being used for. So when you get to a point where it's like, yeah, the culmination of these years of building up to this, and there might be a little bit of fear, a little bit of worry of like, okay, what's going to happen? It's time to put my money where my mouth's at. You can kind of, when you know you've been tempered, you can have confidence that you're going to be able to work through whatever comes.
Yeah. Well, I think that's that experience. You know, it's like, which is, I think, happens to that tempering process in life, where through the trials and just through whatever, through your ability to grow in awareness, to understand faith, and to grow in maturity, through that process, it's like you've been through some things. And it's like, so, I mean, the whole point of like a tempered sword is so that you could use it in battle. Meaning, so like you're still going to find places to go uphill. You're still going to find struggles and loads to carry. But it's like, you know, like your training kind of sets you up to succeed. Yeah. I mean, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. Well, the experience and then the awareness piece. You know, it's the awareness that comes in experience. And then, you know, just personally, it's like when you go through a time and you realize, I mean, I used to struggle with insecurity a lot more and second guessing everything that I said or did. And once you start to become aware that that's the thought that's going through your head, you know, you see it as a weakness instead of just an acceptance of who you are. But until you're aware of it, you don't know to change it. Sure. So just that piece of, you know, just when you're talking about being aware, when you have to go through the process to become aware of what's actually there, but you can choose to stay there, or you can allow that awareness to lead you to where you really should be. And so I think, yeah, just the process of working it out and becoming aware of where those weaknesses are, and not to, like you said earlier, not for discouragement, but that awareness piece is really like, it's a gift. You know, you become aware so that then you can actually do something with it instead of being stuck where you were. Yeah. And so just in the mindset of, you know, anything you might be struggling with or any weakness that you might become aware of, you know, then you can actually recognize it and make a change instead of living there. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, awareness creates freedom as a step number one in being able to change. If you're not aware that it's there, well, why would you ever think to change it? And if you don't believe it can be changed, then, you know, you're shutting the door. Because a lot of people have awareness, you know, I'm anxious, I'm a worrier, I'm this, I'm that. And then the conclusion is made that that's just the way I am.
but it's not. I mean, so that awareness is step number one, right? But then the conclusion is, no, the reason why you can see it is because you now have a choice to choose whether or not you want to keep living in it or not. And it's like your choice will determine if you're going to go down the path of maturity or kind of stay in infancy, which nobody's meant to stay like a baby. Nobody's meant to stay in seed form. It's supposed to mature. Is that a baby right there?
Speaking of babies.
Oh my gosh.
That's all for me, folks.
Yeah. Yeah. I was even thinking about like military people's military training. You know, when you think about going into battle, I mean, the whole thing, right, about military is to prepare for battle so that if and when, you know, you go, that you're ready. So you do all kinds of training. I mean, you do weapons training, you do tactics, you do, you know, physical training, mental training. Like there's all these aspects, right? And so they also have tests. You have tests in your proficiency, right? So that you make sure that you're good to go. So you test, if you will, you test to see if there's weakness to ensure strength. Because if there's weakness and you're going to work on it to build that up, right? I mean, if you're constantly off on your aim, all right, well, let's dial that in so that when you actually go to battle, or if you go to battle, you're fully prepared. Opposed to, you probably just work it out. Wait, no. Like you would train intentionally and you would test to make sure that training stuck, or that it's working, or that you're understanding or digesting it, or you're able to put it into practice. And if not, then there's just some more training that's involved, right? And this guarantees your highest percentage of success when you're proficient and when you test. So it's not... This isn't like a concept of like, oh, I'm not good enough. And this also is not a concept of like, I'm not good enough until like I've got the stamp of approval that I've been fully tempered. I don't think that's a thing. I just think there's a tempering process that happens, and I think it probably just keeps on happening. But it's just like but the more and more mature we get, the more and more, you know, you choose what you do. I think the more self-discipline becomes a real thing, the more focus you're able to give to your purpose, to your vision, to your call, you know, to training yourself and the people around you to continue to be strong and help other people become strong. I mean, as people of the kingdom, we're supposed to be strong. Like like this whole process is about becoming strong. Like we're meant to be strong. We're meant to be people who are sound, secure, firm, established, not wobbly, not shaky, not crumbly. Right? Yeah. I mean, that's like build your house upon the sand or upon the rock, the foundation. So you don't, yeah. It's all maturity. Like is the strengthening process, like growing in maturity. Like we are supposed to grow in maturity in like the completeness and the full knowledge of God.
Yeah.
Like we're not supposed to just kind of walk in circles with weak legs, feeble.
Yeah. 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 Well, just like you don't build muscle by sitting on the couch, you have to tear it down. You have to break it down first. Like you don't become a strong Christian or a strong whatever just by, you know, going through whatever motions, going through whatever routine you've been going through because you're afraid to take a chance on something, or because it looks like too big of a risk, or because it seems like it's going to be a lot of responsibility or whatever. It seems like any time to build any kind of strength on any analogy, something has to be broken down and then repaired. I think that's part of just how you get stronger, and mentally and physically, and yeah. So be okay with like, you know, not breaking down, but be okay with like, you know, feeling spread thin. Sometimes be okay with like having to problem solve on the spot. Sometimes be okay with like, wow, this is kind of a crazy situation. Sometimes, and just be okay with that stuff, because ultimately you're going to come out stronger, just like you would, just like the sword does, just like you would in building muscle in the gym and stuff like that. But I was going to ask, have you ever been thankful that you've been tampered with, or that you've been tempered?
That I had a tambourine. Yeah, I mean,
I know I have.
Yeah.
Looking back, I know I've been thankful, because you go into a situation where it's like, yeah, I can handle this.
Right. Or like you see something because you saw it in yourself, or because you know what it looks like, because you know what it feels like. You're like, oh, it's just like your point of view changes because of the experience, because of the knowledge, the understanding that comes. So yeah, I mean, it's growth. I mean, it's like your perspective affects everything. I mean, because if you get so focused on the wind and the waves, and you get so focused on the weight of the load, that sometimes it's like you almost kind of never really recover, because you can't figure out how to find rest. And so all that to say is, like, then it's like you're always tired, or like mentally even, you're just like, I don't know if I can handle that. Like I feel like I'm always carrying something. So it's like, because of your perspective, you can kind of, even though it's not a reflection of your strength or your ability, it's just like your perspective that kind of shrinks it down. As there's this guy named Jocko who was like a Navy SEAL, and does a bunch of talks and stuff, and he was saying that there was this one guy who would he'd always come up and kind of like complain about something, and Jocko's answer was always good. You know, it's like, I don't know, he just gave a bunch of like examples, like, you know, we didn't get the high speed gear that we wanted. He's like, good. You know, we don't have all the intel we need. Good. You know, we don't have this. Good. You don't have that. Good. These guys are over here. Good. It's, you know, it's just like it, because it provides the opportunity to grow, to become stronger, to, like, you know, forge on, to make your resolve strong, to just kind of look at weakness and punch it in the face with strength. You know, it's like,
yeah, your
perspective. And I think that's what we're after, right? We're after the perspective of like, no, I can handle that. No, I can do that. Oh, that's the hardest thing. Give me that. That's the thing that nobody else wants to do. Oh, I'll do that. Right? Like those kind of perspectives. This is what we're going for. You know, in this tempering, we're not going to be broken or shattered. We're going to become stronger and stronger. So it's like, no, yeah, give me that. Like, no, I'm not going to be afraid of that, or I'm not going to be afraid of this. Like, that ability to just keep pushing forward.
Yeah. Yeah, decision making too. That just popped into my head, like the ability to make decisions. Like, you can't ever make decisions unless you're tested with
some choices.
Yeah. So yeah, part of that forging process, or tempering process, is just problem solving, decision making. Those things are things that I think we'll never be perfect at, and never have enough tempering. Like, they're always being tempered, I think, just problem solving and decision making. So yeah, I think it's it's something that you just gotta, if you're going to change your life, I think it's just part of the process. You may as well get ready for it.
Yeah, well, too, it's like, again, this isn't like I'm going to sit back and do nothing until, like, this process is complete. It's like, there's some things where it's like, you need the right environment to grow. There's certain aspects, I think, that require a certain kind of environment, right, to be stimulated. I don't know. There's some analogy about forest fires and how the fires somehow, I don't know, there's some seeds or something that don't open up without the extreme heat, or there's something beneficial that creates more life in the forest fire, right? But it needs it needs the fire for that to happen. And so in the same way, it's like you don't want to be afraid to jump into things. It's like there's some things that we just need to jump into. You're not going to be fully prepared. You're not going to be comfortable. You're not going to have it all together. But it's like the only way to become more prepared is to actually get into it. The only way to become better is to start doing it. You know, it's not to wait until it's like it's as I go through this, as I go through the motions, to go through this process, this is what is going to also create that tempering process, also going to create skill and ability and maturity. It's as you go, right? And the experience demands experience, right? It demands getting hands-on. So don't be afraid of jumping in. This isn't like a sit back and relax. This is like engage in life and become stronger. Like, don't crap out, don't tap out. When it gets hard, learn to dig deeper. Like, when it gets heavy, learn to find some rest. When your mind goes sideways, learn to bring it back to not sideways. Learn to bring it back like stable. Right? It's like these things are opportunities to keep jamming, to just get over it and move on. Like the quicker you are to let go of something and just get back into reality, dude, the better off you are, right? The longer you marinate in disgustingness, the longer you're in disgustingness, the faster you ditch it.
Start to create that reality.
Yeah.
On your own.
Right. Which just distracts you from life.
Which wasn't even a reality to begin with.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the tempering process. Becoming awesome. Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking about self-discipline too, just as part of this process. Self-discipline is defined as the ability to control one's feelings and overcome one's weakness. The ability to pursue what one thinks is right despite temptations to abandon it. Right? Self-disciplined is the ability to control your feelings and overcome your weakness. Well, that means you need to put yourself in such a position where your weakness rises up, but then you overcome it. It's Chris Valentin. It's like you can't overcome what you don't confront. And it's like there's some things where you need to show up where it's a little bit terrifying to actually overcome it. But yeah, this tempering process is for real. We're created to be strong, sure, and confident. Right? The tempering process warms up, heats up that confidence to prove it's trustworthy, to prove that faith is genuine and strong. Right? You will be found proven genuine, right? Because we are people who actually believe. We're the people of God. My good peoples. Until next time, peace!